We all want to live in that 5D state of consciousness of love and oneness. But what if I told you that wanting to live in 5D can be misleading at times? This is what I'll talk about in this episode. Stay tuned. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my YouTube channel or my podcast. I'm your host and guide, Will Caminada, and I'm here to help you awaken, heal, and expand your consciousness. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I always talk about multidimensionality, especially 5D consciousness, and this evolutionary shift that we're currently in. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for being here, and I'll leave in the cards a playlist with all my videos about 5D that you can watch if it's something that you're interested in. But to put it into very simple terms, the 5D state of consciousness is the state of love and oneness, also known as unity consciousness or Christ consciousness. And of course, love is the highest expression of the divine. It's what connects it all together in this master cosmic web that we're part of. And there's no doubt in my mind that love and light is our very essence, and unity consciousness invites us to see all living beings through these lenses, that we're all one, beings of light from the same source or from the same one consciousness. So how can there be a shadow aspect to this? I'm not saying that there is a shadow aspect to love itself, but how we approach the idea of 5D living and how we understand with our dual mentality what it's like to anchor 5D consciousness in the 3D world that we live in. After all, we're still having a human experience and living in a 3D world where most people aren't necessarily awakened to this quote-unquote expanded reality. And this takes me to the first shadow aspect, which is losing discernment. While 5D is asking us to love all and have compassion for all, we may get a bit lost in that idea that unconditional love and oneness are the only elements of the 5D equation. Collectively, we're still dealing with the so-called 3D themes such as duality, separation, labels, the ego. So as much as 5D living is saying love all, or as Christ would say, love your neighbor as yourself, if you're not acknowledging the 3D ego, it's going to be very hard for you to function in this world, at least for now, until we are collectively living in 5D, which may take a while. And the element that needs to be added to the equation is sovereignty. I'm not fond of maths, but I love words, so I came up with these equations. So if you have oneness plus love minus sovereignty, you're still in between 3D and 4D, which we all are because we will oscillate from these states of consciousness from moment to moment. But without the sovereignty element, you may be still caught up in a ROM that manipulates you. You may still be in a belief system that has you believe that loving others as they are equals accepting that they might mistreat you or take advantage of you or simply has power over you and can take you out of your own 5D state. Now, this equation, oneness plus love plus sovereignty equals 5D. And what this means is that you're owning your energy field and your state of consciousness, and it's not being influenced by others, at least for most of the time. And yet you're able to have compassion towards other people's paths because you know that their essence is that of love and light. This doesn't mean, however, that you will allow them to take your peace or make you feel a certain way that is not aligned with how you want to experience. Now, in the next episode, I'll share what you can do about all these aspects that I'm mentioning here. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of my next upload. The number 2 shadow aspect of 5D is not embodying 5D. In other words, becoming, or even if unconsciously wanting to become disconnected to the 3D world and judging the 3D experience. We sometimes tend to look at the 3D experience as negative. I do that sometimes too. And that is because we've been programmed to live under the old paradigm. And now that we are in a way breaking through this paradigm, we may look at it with negativity or dismissiveness. It's like looking at our teenage pictures and going, what was I wearing? Or simply reflecting back on your past and hating on your mistakes, judging the experience that brought you to where you are today. So instead of judging the 3D, we can be grateful for the path. But actually, what I really want to emphasize here is that embodying 5D means integrating all of the healing and expansion that you've been through. Embracing the fact that yes, you have an expanded awareness and connection with the spiritual realm, but hey, you are still in a physical body, and your physical body is part of the whole equation. I'm all about the equations today. If you don't embody your 5D awareness, it's just going to be really difficult to navigate the most mundane of the tasks in 3D, like paying your bills or scheduling an appointment. The next aspect is putting pressure on yourself because you're not in 5D. So it's important to remind you that we will oscillate between states from moment to moment, because that's what our life is all about, a collection of now moments. I prefer to see it as a dance more than oscillation. And obviously for the ego mind, we want to set a goal to have more 5D moments than 3D or 4D moments. It's not a bad goal to have, but if you set this goal for yourself, you may be putting some pressure or feeling disappointed when most of your moments aren't the 5D moments that you expect. Expectation is not your friend when it comes to 5D living or living in general, because you're very likely to be disappointed when you get emotionally triggered, for example, which is going to happen at one point or another when we're learning how to be in relationships with other human beings. Or also sometimes when you have to go to crowded environments like markets, gyms, or airports, places where you can find a lot of quote-unquote 3D energy. And this is actually a question that I get a lot. How can I live in 5D when the X, Y, Z or such and such are not in the same state of awareness as I am or as I want to be? You're focusing on the external and in a way blaming the external circumstances or people for the experience that you're having. There is a difference between acknowledging the external situation and acknowledging the behavior or state of awareness of the other person from that place of love and oneness that I mentioned earlier, to acknowledging from a more egoic place. And guess what? This happens, and it's going to happen, but when it does, you can always choose to go back to your heart, because your heart will always remind you that the choice to stay in your 5D heart center is yours. The 5D heart center will guide you into self-compassion, as well as it will remind you that all is well as is right now. And this takes me to the fourth shadow aspect of 5D. Putting pressure on yourself to heal yourself fast and to anchor 5D now. That's the one coming from the ego, which we must learn to embrace, but most importantly, we must learn to tune in to the observer self, aka your higher self. One of the things that I always say is that the healing journey is a continuous journey. There are many layers to this process, and I'll leave a card and a link to my episode 11, the deeper layers of healing. But what happens sometimes is that we may feel tired, like it's a never-ending journey, or we may want to rush this process because we understand that if healing is taking place at a faster pace, then we will be ascended in 5D, and so will the planet. But putting this pressure on you doesn't help. Obviously, throwing the towel doesn't help either, but it's about finding a balance between trusting that you are on the right path of healing and ascension, and then tuning in to your inner guidance to take the actions necessary to facilitate this healing to to take place. For spirit, there is no time span, no fast or slow. There is only the evolution of your consciousness. But for you as a human being, you have the free will to choose to contribute and be an active part in this process that happens on an individual and a collective level. Number 5, worshiping the higher dimensional beings. Expanding your awareness and also your knowledge of multidimensionality may get you to a place of either curiosity or connection with higher dimensional beings, whether we're talking the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Sirians, or the angels and the archangels. And you can check my episode about the 9 types of spirit guides here in the cards or in the description. This is all good until you start worshiping them and giving your power away to higher forces outside of you. This is what happened eons ago when these higher dimensional beings seeded the planet and brought knowledge and wisdom to the planet. Humans started to believe that they were gods and that they had a power beyond their capabilities. And some of these higher dimensional beings actually bought the idea, whereas some decided to get out of the game and press the reset button on the Earth project. We were never meant to believe that we didn't have the powers within us. And yes, we needed to learn many things such as agriculture, technology, and etc. But we weren't supposed to believe that we needed gods on our planet. One of the main messages from the Pleiadians is that they are here to assist us in the ascension process and not to save anyone. Also, that our evolution is their evolution, which means that for our linear way of thinking, they may be in a more advanced level of consciousness, but we're all in this together. We can absolutely turn to them for guidance, but we don't want to depend on them for it. Ultimately, they want us to remember our potential as a multidimensional being too. So let me know in the comments which of these aspects hit home for you. And if you want to learn what you can do about them, watch out for the next episode. And in the meantime, you can check these episodes about debunking 5D myths and signs that you're shifting into 5D. As always, keep shining your light, keep your heart open, and let love lead the way. I love you. See you in the next episode. Bye.